Welcome to this webinar, and on behalf of you all, I'd like to offer Jenny Gu, our speaker today, a very warm welcome. As I mentioned, Jenny is currently the President of Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, ACCA, an organisation that represents more than 227,000 qualified members and 544,000 future members worldwide. Additionally, Jenny is the CEO at Richemont China, responsible for overall operational leadership and strategy. Jenny has 24 years experience in management consultancy, fast-moving consumer goods, sports and retail sector, and working in multinational companies and private equity firms, including Nike and TPG Capital. Jenny's expertise includes general management, sales and retail, finance, strategic planning, supply chain management, and company transformation. She advises clients on strategy, as well as operational effectiveness and efficiency, and has worked in China, the USA, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Taiwan. And Jenny has been a member of the ACA since 1998 and has served on the ACCA Council since 2009. So Jenny, welcome. And first of all, may I congratulate you on your appointment as President ACCA. Although I understand because of COVID, perhaps your opportunities to travel extensively, as you would expect as a president, have been curtailed. Is that correct? And can you just explain to us a little bit about the presidency?
Thank you, Doug, for the nice words and introduction. And good morning to you all on Asia Scotland Institute Forum friends. And I see also some of my ACCA colleagues like Liz and Alex, and I saw other familiar names like Steve, his coach. So good morning to you all. So absolutely, I think, giving my year as president, usually pre-COVID, usually as president, I should have traveled around the globe and being both leading the organization on the strategy and working with executive teams, co-chairing all the council and council boards, normal thing. But I should also have traveled a lot around the globe and to meet and to speak and to interact with our ACCA members, our students, and our stakeholders as well. Unfortunately, early, late January-ish, when COVID-19 hits China and spread around the world, unfortunately afterwards, really that the travel was off the limits. But instead, we had a lot of interactions virtually with our members, students, and stakeholders. So our interaction doesn't really stop. And it's actually somehow, as I've been chatting with Doug earlier, the virtual format actually brought on more participation, given people are not limited by being physically in one location. So people say never waste a crisis. So there's certain advantages, opportunities the new situation brings to us.
Jenny, thank you. Perhaps to start, I'd like you to perhaps outline what you see the biggest challenges for ACCA and financial professionals generally, and perhaps how will you assess the need for the profession going forward?
Well, definitely, I think everybody would agree that COVID-19 is clearly the biggest and the most immediate challenge in the world. And it's same for ACCA as an organization, and probably same for most of the businesses and even for personal life as well. It has definitely destroyed the countless viable and successful businesses which failed through at no fault of their own. And each one has been a tragedy for the people who have built the business and who relied on them for their livelihood as well. The world economy is also close to a generation-long slump, and the response of the business is critical. The question is, how do we work together to build back together in a better and even better world? In the time to come, we really see when Mother Nature or society or the science or a combination of all of them have weakened the grip of the virus. It is definitely a big question for ACCA, and because our global influence across the finance industry, the private enterprises, the public sectors and the national governments, and with regulators as well, hands us a very central role in finding a way forward. Now, as Doug already mentioned, that ACCA is a professional body and have a wide reach. And we work in over 176 countries and across literally every continent. And we have 227,000 members and 544,000 students and the future members. So our size and the scope gives us so many opportunities to make a difference and to be good citizens of the world. And we really want to use that scale to find solutions to the big issues and then also to plan for the recovery and for the future. All measures point to a very deep recession, but it's still hard to gain a clear picture even as of today, and just how tough this is going to get, whether it's going to be improving from early spring next year or not. Really, it's not very clear. I don't believe anybody have a crystal ball at this stage. And our own ACCA research also paints a very bleak picture of the world's economy and health as well. And most people will recognize that a collapse in customers' demands and cash flows slowed or stopped, a halt to product launches and investment, and a crisis definitely for supply chains. And COVID-19 has also raised lots of interesting points about the nature of our work. And we see millions of employees operating at home and uncoupled from traditional workplace. And then absolutely an explosion in the flexible working hours and a lot of virtual meetings and conversations, and definitely a destandardization of the working hours as well, and a loosening of traditional, the trading hours as well. So ACCA has been involved at a macro and a micro level. We have worked with the governments to advise on emergency legislations to lessen redundancies, economic hardships, and business failures. Our advice, often delivered in webinars and online forums, has emerged as a crucial source for hard information on subjects, including insurance, employment laws, mental health and well-being, access to borrowings, sourcing government grants, tax, digital investment, and so on and so on. We can never be complacent, of course, but I hope that we're slowly emerging into recovery as a global community. And the effects of the COVID are still severe, but the global economy still survive. Well, it definitely looks bad still now, and giving especially the Europe, and in particular you all reside in Scotland or England, I think the resurgence of the COVID is definitely puts things at a very difficult time for many, Europe and the US. But I do believe that we are through the worst, and hopefully the darkest hour is before dawn. So that's what we see the challenges. And of course, talking about opportunity, I think, as an ACCA, as a professional body, our mission and a vision is really to develop the professional accountancies in the world needs. And I think that the digital evolution and the technologies, the innovations brought by technology, by digital, will be continue evolving. But I think what we as professional accountants have been trained with the skill sets, with the ethics that will be guided through and will be very capable is actually to be continue and to help all the economies, the local economies, and no matter where we are, and to really help to strengthen that and to really find solutions as well. So I think that's where we see the opportunity will continue to reside, and for the profession as well, and for ACCA as an organization as well.
Billy, thank you. I understand that you've set some very demanding diversity and inclusion an agenda that you try to set on your organization. Could you just explain a little bit more about that and why you think it's so important?
Well, I very much, my own background, my own the growth journey is definitely I've been seeing the huge value of diversity. Diversity brings creativity, and diverse brings more balanced judgment and all the values along that. So as soon as I actually became the president of ACCA, I said that my main theme would be diversity and inclusion. And this is so important to me at a personal level, at a professional level as well. And I'm very conscious and proud of the fact that I am the very first female Chinese president of ACCA. And I'm proud that ACCA is open to all people, regardless of their culture, their class, or their creed. diversity and inclusion isn't just about women's insights or rights, but I'm proud particularly that ACCA is an organization when women thrive. And I have seen and it have been my privilege to really to promote that agenda in my year as president as well. We definitely promote practices and the policies which giving women every chance to succeed. And we support flexible working hours. The concepts of diversity and inclusion are named in ACCA's mission and values. We should also remember these things because they don't apply in every professional organization everywhere in the world today. And they were built into our charter when we were founded in 1904. And we have really led ever since in promoting fair treatment for all. And it is why we look with pride at the contribution women have made at ACCA to share a little bit more. And we were the first professional association to include women members. And in 1980, we became the first professional association to elect a women president, Vera de Palma. And of course, now I have the honor of serving as ACCA's first Chinese female president. And our chief executive is a woman, Helen Brand. The head of our ACCA UK is a woman, Claire Bennison. And the women all over the world lead regional ACCA panels and fill important offices. And two of our three top officers are women, me and all us from Ireland as well. And so 2 women among the 3 officers. And 67% of our executive council boards are women. 63% of our global council are women, and 61% of all our staff are women, and 56% of all our students are women. So I really want to share a few thoughts and also from my own experience in business as well. And I was born and educated in Shanghai and joined ACCA, as Doug already shared, back in 1998. And it was a time that in a place that when the young women were still relatively uncommon in the world of finance and in professional life generally. And male attitudes were certainly trivial at that time, and old-fashioned chauvinistic views were normal. Of course, things are changing, and I am also certain that the same prejudices exist everywhere in every society, even still as of today, at different level, at different scale. But I soon also learned through my own journey at the corporate life and climbing the corporate ladders, and to have confidence in my training and in my talent. And once you have shown what you can do the job, and the rest really falls into place. And because most people really only care about the results and what you bring to the business. So I think it's about the confidence, it's about the results you really deliver. And you know, the gender, the race, and it will eventually become less of an issue. And I do see in the world particularly over the last 20, 30 years have been improved a lot, but still definitely there's still a long way to go. But that's also why I'm so passionate about this diversity and inclusion topic. And I'm also very happy to share with you just a few days ago, Richemont China, where I am leading obviously today. We were named by some professional organization as one of the best employers, and to really embody the diversity and inclusion. So I'm definitely happy. I've seen both at ACCA as well as the organization I'm leading and heading are really making developments and making progress on diversity and inclusion.
Jenny, it's very interesting to hear that you've faced those sorts of barriers in terms of your progress in business. One of the aims of the Institute is to equip our young and future leaders with the skills and the knowledge to succeed. I just wondered if you could give us or give them some advice, and if I may, particularly any specific advice you might give to young women seeking to succeed in business.
I also hope that the current, the disruption brought by the COVID-19 will help sweep away the old attitudes. And I think the world is more and more open and I've seen a lot of progress, and I've seen a lot of women leaders in every sector, in every industry, and in a lot of countries and markets as well. As I mentioned earlier, I think the confidence is very, very important. And then, so truly, I really personally believe, and I would say my first advice to any women and who are seeking success in businesses is to believe in themselves. And of course, the confidence and the belief in ourselves really need to be, obviously, to be backed up by our own trainings and by our talent and about the way how we interact with people and by how we deliver results. And in a general sense, I think it is true to say that women at work have been less eager to actually to pull themselves forward for new roles or more senior roles than men. And men are more likely actually to take a chance and be applying anyway, even when their CV doesn't really tick all the boxes on a role specifications. And there's a statistic actually saying that as well. So I think, my advice and also to females is we are more likely to doubt ourselves. I think it's a little bit maybe gender psychology and maybe also part of the social a little bit of perception as well, and how the social norm how they see women's in the roles in the society. Our inner critic quite often tells us that we can't do this, we can't do that, we're not ready, or we're not ready and we're not capable of doing that, and not to what we can do. And I think we really need to give ourselves a chance and be really to challenge ourselves and step out of our comfort zone and be willing and open to tackle and to take on the challenges. We don't need to be, and most of the time, and it's actually, and I've seen a lot of times actually, nobody fits to a role 100%. Usually you tick maybe 70% of the boxes, and you may be super strong in 5 out of the 10 boxes. 3, you have the relevant experiences. Maybe you're lacking 2 or 3, but don't feel bad about it. And that don't let those 2 or 3 boxes you're not ticking actually stop you to applying something or to actually approach something. And I really don't think that that the reluctance to reach for more or to aim higher will survive another generation. But it does take us women to actually be confident and to bring those and to approach those challenges. And we have to make our strides really forward in our business world and in society, and they aren't going to step back now. So it is up for us, to take that step forward. But then, of course, as I've seen, definitely I can tell a lot of our male colleagues, male friends here, and it also takes our male counterparts to actually to be more willingly to accept and to acknowledge. A female sometimes maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable, but also takes the other side to actually to grant more opportunity to the female. So again, diversity is not about just women thinking about we can do and let's strides forward, but takes the societal to break that silo and to break the perception and to give women and willingly and also openly give women more opportunity and chances to thrive.
Jenny, I'll endeavour to do that. So thank you. Jenny, perhaps turning to your role in Richemont, which you mentioned earlier, could you just give us sort of a general assessment on how you anticipate the luxury brand sector unfolding? Clearly, just prior to COVID, there seemed to be a slowdown in luxury goods in Western markets and generally everywhere except China, where it was blooming. And then since then, and you mentioned to me earlier that it's progressing extremely well in China, but I just wonder what your thoughts were overall for the sector.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what we've seen, and maybe I'll put. Let me maybe start this way. And I think if anybody's actually has some interest or have some tracking on the luxury segment, a lot of consulting companies have done a lot of research. And so basically, the world has been really seeing the Chinese middle class growth and the Chinese appetite for the willingness and the also be able to afford more and more. And so before COVID, actually, for all the luxury segment, the Chinese clients accounts for about 30 or 32% of the global consumption of the luxury goods. That was before. And there was always been seeing, even before COVID, that Chinese clients will be even accelerating their spending, higher growth than the rest of the world. So over the next 3 to 5 years, the prediction at that time, pre-COVID, was Chinese consumption of luxury goods will actually continue to accelerate and hence to take even a higher share. But the COVID actually even more so accelerates that progress. Now, obviously, I think it's both the continuous confidence of the Chinese, particularly the Chinese residing in China, the confidence level of their future income, because actually China's have been, with the government's determination and the resource, and the China has been really being put or taken or handling the COVID situation better than the rest of the world. And things are relatively in better containment, and economic lives are quite back to normal for most of the sectors. I'm sure some sectors recover or even faster. And so all these things, and then definitely I think it's also a, I would have to also accolade for the China government. I think there's a lot of economic policies actually in China as well, is actually promoting domestic consumptions and promoting for what we call the elevated consumption to upgrade the consumption in a certain level. So what we've been seeing, yes, pre-COVID, the Chinese clients on the overall luxury sector consumption has a trend of accelerating the growth than the rest of the world. And then now post-COVID, even more so. And when I talk about the 32 or 35% Chinese consumption, is actually 2/3 of that 35%, usually in the past, spending outside of China mainland. Given the COVID now, actually those Chinese clients was not able to travel any longer in other countries. So that's put them, they're being more willing to pay a little bit extra, given that they won't be enjoying the tax-free, when they exit Europe back to return to China. So what we call that's the repatriated Chinese clients consumption. So that actually helped to boost and really accelerate the luxury sector consumptions in China. So I'm definitely happy to share with that, because it's now a public information. As of last Friday, Richemont Group actually announced and published our first half financial results. China market grew our business by 78% in the first half. So it's tremendous growth, it's way even stronger than our normal years of growth. So we've been really seeing, and in a way it's benefiting, I won't say benefiting from the COVID, but taking advantage of the crisis elsewhere. And we also did a lot of, we made a huge progress. Now I'm talking about the millennials, the younger consumers, because if you look at the luxury sector, the consumers are getting younger, and even more so in China. And on average, the Chinese luxury the consumers are roughly about 10 years younger than Western countries. And they're definitely, they grew up, they live every day in the digital world. So social commerce, e-commerce are something they breathe in and out. And we've been very fortunate, actually. We've been quite ahead of the curve. We've already started, before COVID, was looking and to start a business on the Tmall Luxury Pavilion. And we built our Cartier Tmall flagship store early January this year. And then given the COVID, we fast forwarded digital development. So by now, 9 of our Richemont Maisons already have the Tmall flagship store. And we're really seeing the triple-digit e-commerce business growth as well. So truly, the landscape is very different in China. And of course, with who knows when the global travel will resume and to a pre-COVID level, will see that some of the Chinese will be reducing unnecessary travel, even when the travel starts to open gates and start to resume a little bit. But nobody says when that the travel will resume back to 100% as before COVID. So we will still seeing a very strong, hopefully will continue on the momentum, but someday and some Chinese will start to travel, and that will help a little bit on our our counterparts markets, of course. So we're very happy with what we're doing here in China, definitely.
Amazing, amazing results, and a very interesting sort of proposal for the future. And I'm sure that will attract some other questions. I'm going to ask a final question before we go to questions from the audience. You very sort of clearly outlined how the business environment is changing, and perhaps how that's accelerated and changed further because of COVID. But you know, obviously for me, when you're looking at the business sector, technological innovation and security issues and data and the pace of change and our ability to respond are some of the biggest challenges that people face. And I would suggest that that's perhaps greater or as important for accountants and financial professionals. And I just wondered if you could just specifically comment a little just on how you see professionals tackling those sorts of challenges in the current market.
Well, absolutely. You know, I referred earlier about how the consumer behaviors and how the younger generations, they've always been digital, even more so accelerated. And definitely, I think this COVID is the innovation or the challenges or the opportunities bring along by the COVID is definitely the attitudes, the general attitudes to the digital transformation. And I absolutely, I've seen in our own organization, and I've seen in other organizations as well, business which aren't investing heavily in digital are likely to pay a heavy price. And almost every business has relied for its survival in the last few months on remote working and on digital capabilities. And this has accelerated the trend that was already obvious. And as workplaces and offices are closed down all around the globe, all around the world, and the business had to find new and inventive ways of keeping our own peoples together and to keep running and to stay trading and to stay serving our clients. So it absolutely opened everyone's minds to the necessity of robust digital systems that were shock-proof, were crash-proof, and pandemic-proof as well. And you know, at ACCA, even before COVID, we had a strategy that was centered on the building better digital capabilities. And we recognized that our customers, our members, and our stakeholders needed to engage with all our services seamlessly, easily, as well as smoothly online. That process was really absolutely accelerated when COVID came, when in the scope of a week, our staff globally, as well as everyone we communicate with, was operating remotely rather than from an office. And we also vastly expanded our ability to run exams online using remote invigilation to protect the rigor and integrity of our qualification. So we were very happy actually when, you know, if I still recall back in March, because it was so severe, the China market was hit, and we had to cancel the whole China market exam completely. But by June, as we moving along into June and July, and that ACCA already and studied and already pulled the remote invigilation exams capability, and we'll continue to expand that. And then we're upcoming for the December exam almost at the corner, and we're better and we're more prepared in a way. If you know, continue certain markets have some situation with the physical exam centers, we'll be able to give the students and the opportunity actually to take the remote invigilation, which is very important, if I would say, because that will help and to keep our students, future members, continue their journey to becoming a professional, to becoming an ACCA qualified. So those things are really, really important. Of course, you know, giving beyond our ACCA as an organization, definitely I would say digital brings opportunities to all all the businesses, and it brings challenges as well. I think our Zoom now with the technology, I'm very glad, on Zoom, they're quite stable, generally speaking, but sometimes still running into issues. So overall, and I think it's really what we've been seeing, that the advancement or the acceleration of using technology and going more digitization will really build a strong foundation for the continual business sustainability, the business continuity as well. And as an accountancy profession, what we've been also seeing, and possibly those biggest impacts might drive, or some of the drivers, such as we are very likely to see the increased regulations and a stronger governance as well. And one of the topic I've been in another webinar is really to talking about, given the COVID situation, and all the countries, the nationals have to spend tons of public money to really to address and tackle the COVID, and to give subsidies to ensure that business can survive and the people's livelihood can continue. And so the public, in the public sector, how we as an accountancy profession to continue to promote, the accrual accounting instead of the cash accounting. So make sure the governments can do the balance sheet appropriately, so they know what the assets or the resource they have. So all these things, I think it's really a opportunity and the value where the accountancy profession can continue to really give to add the public value. And then I talk about digital technology as well already. One more element I would say I've seen, particularly I think in China, given all the US and China war, right? It's been ongoing for almost 2 years probably. And so, the globalization is a topic. Are we going to the pendulum shifting from globalizations to nationalism, protectionism, all these things? And it's some challenges, but also opportunities. And hopefully now with the new US administration will soon taking over the White House, hopefully that will be the world order will be able to resume to a bit more rational behavior, and with all the global leadership as well. So all these things, so I think it's really, and the finance brings opportunity to the finance profession, and particularly for us, giving as professional accountants, we have definitely the technical skill sets. And we talked a lot about the 7 quotient ACCA has been continuously promoting, about the experience quotients, the ethics fundamentally super critical and important, the digital quotient, the vision quotient, and all these things. And it really puts also the finance and the finance profession and the professional accountants at the right hand, and being a strategic business leader, and to really help all the business we are in to prioritize and the resource allocations, and to find solutions where we see different challenges, different business facing right now, and to really build a sustainable business, and which can last longer and stronger. So I'll pause here.
Jenny, thank you. Those global issues that you raise are obviously topics that we in the Institute have been covering very closely. And indeed, in the UK, there's a significant amount of money being spent on COVID, and there's a big debate at the moment about how well that money is being spent, and whether we can demonstrate that it's good value. So it's very felt here in the UK. You mentioned governance, and I know Roddy Gow, our chairman, has a question he wishes to ask you. Roddy.
Jenny, thank you very much. It's been very interesting listening to what you've been saying. Often the role of taking responsibility to ensure that the company is well run, which sometimes leads to the whistleblower effect, sits in the finance function. And I would imagine, but I would like your views, because you've talked about governance, on what guidance you give your members on how to deal with something that they see as wrong, and which in modern parlance would be described as the need to take steps as whistleblowers. Could you just talk about that, please?
Thank you, Roddy, for that question. I think it's a great question. You know, every organization handles that differently. But I think, again, back maybe before and share how I've seen in some of the organization I've through my journey have experienced. But I think maybe bring back first on as professional accountants, as ACCA members. I think we always put the ethics at center. And that's very, very important and a unique and a very strong cornerstone for us, beyond the technical, the skills and the experience we bring to any of the business we're in. I think the ethics and exactly speaking to the whistleblowing, yes, and unfortunately, sometimes in any organization in the society, the whistleblowers sometimes unfortunately carry certain risks or certain aftermath consequences, not in a way bring those individual whistleblowers the fair treatment. That's the reality. But I think given we are professional accountants and ethics is our cornerstone value, and I believe all our members and the future members, we always put that in heart. If we see something does not speak to have some issues, not compliance with the laws, regulations, or there's something, fraud, potential risk, and we will always come front and then to raise those things. Whether, sometimes it's about confidential whistleblowing, and sometimes actually if we are already in the leadership roles, and we should tackle those things, and we should stop those unlawful or dubious practice. And so these things I think I truly believe in. And I think back to the governance now, I've seen different organizations handles that differently. And I've seen in our organizations, we have the whistleblowings reports directly into the internal audit, and that team reports directly to the board level, right? Usually the audit committee. So that really gives the people and have more confidence that if they've been whistleblowing something, they're more protected in a way. They won't be. There was not gonna be in a way negative impact. So I think the way how any organization structure themselves to ensure that, first of all, the whistleblower will be treated confidential information. There will be robust follow through to do investigation, and then make sure that there's clear policy and that those whistleblowers be protected. And then also, I think training is also very important. So one is about your overall company structure, how you structure and who's handling those whistleblowing cases, investigations, all these things. But another thing is about training. We do in our organizations every year, beginning our fiscal year in the first 30 days, we require every single employee going through a compliance training. The compliance also including how we handle and how we encourage people actually to whistleblow if they seeing something's not right. And so everybody's aware and there's a process, there's a resource, there's a calling number, or there's an email address, all these things. And so people are trained and they know there's a process and they feel more and more comfortable. And then truly, of course, and then process is one thing, you have the right channel, and then how you really handle and how you really follow through, and then also actually feedback to those whistleblower as you close up those and or have the results out from the investigation. All these things, they all playing together. So it's not about just organization. I think the organization-wide awareness, the trainings, and then the mechanism as well.
Jenny, thank you. We have a question from Ian Baxter from the Confucius Institute in Heriot-Watt University. Ian, if you'd like to ask your question, please.
Thanks, Doug. Thank you, Jenny, for a really inspiring and insightful talk. I suppose it picks up on what, to some extent, what you were saying around ethics and governance, and thinking about the role of sort of healthy societies and the role that accountancy and future accountants can play in it. And I was interested, sort of based on your experience in the accountancy practice and as a COO in the luxury sector, how do you see accountancy changing in a longer period in response to COVID in areas like natural capital accounting or areas that the UK government are thinking about at the moment around social or cultural capital accounting, to think about quality of life for people in society generally. How will this affect training of future accountants to think more widely about the role of, as you say, the facts and numbers and data within society?
Thank you, Ian, for that question. That's a very big question. I think you know, ethics. I think it is indeed. I think it's also it's a very important about the sustainable business development and sustainable business growth as well. How I see it personally, I would say, I think, you know, we as an ACCA, as an organization, and our syllabus and our continuous CPD requirements and all these things will continue to put ethics center around. And we have an ethics day as well, and to promoting, continues to promote and awareness and knowledge to our members and actually to our stakeholders as well, because our ethics module is actually a digital module, and anybody actually can actually take advantage, because it doesn't take a classroom training. And those, you know, the cases we build and really center around the real life experience and examples or case studies, and how you handle that. But I think fundamentally, to your question also related to the national capital allocations, all these things. Again, I talked a little bit about, you know, we are as a professional accountancy body, we are advancing and promoting, and to really in the public sector to really to drive the enhance on the accrual accounting. Really, the cash accounting is a very old-fashioned approach, and I think it takes the overall society and the profession to really continue to actually to advance that agenda. That's from a public asset and a public value perspective. And I really also see that again, back to my corporate experience, and I've seen how, as an individual, as an accountant working in any organization, we can do, and then also about the company. Any companies need to build those company culture as well. At Richemont, we are critical. We're super compliance driven from a corporate culture perspective, and I think our finance team here, our accountants here, are really playing a very, very critical role, given they are the gatekeeper. And I think they carry that burden, and they really be exercising that as well, and very well in a way. And you know, really when our business, because a lot of time what we see in a commercial world, and our business folks, you know, who are working in the sales, working in retail, they're very, very, they have their, of course, their objective to deliver revenues, to deliver on their targets, and they'll be more aggressive, you know, they'll be inventive and finding every opportunity to do business. But there's certain, you know, certain things, or how you do it. And we as accountants, and we have our professional teams, and really, and we need to actually to help to make sure that any of the new approaches, the new process on the you know, as an example, anti-competition, you know, all these things, and the professional teams, the lawyers, we are behind all these things. We want to make sure that we are helping our business front-end people to find the appropriate approach to really to ensure we are law binding, and then we are doing everything compliant in a compliance way. So it's about, you know, there's a revenue opportunity. There's different ways to do it. Do you want to do, I'm not saying doing business risk-free, but we have to always keep the compliance mindset, and really to look into how we can make sure that our business is operating in a most compliant way. And the same thing as I mentioned, you know, the national capital and allocation, or the resource allocation, is about, we all have to, every organization or every country have limited resources. It could be capital, it could be human resource, it could be the land, right? So all these things, how we as strategic business leaders be able to participate at the leadership table to actually to have a strategic discussion, not around one thing, but have a bigger picture. And I think our as professional accountants have that advantage, and seeing things not just from a technical perspective, but with a broadened scope and scale in mind, and looking at a bit more, not beyond the short term, but also look at a midterm and a long-term impact as well. So all these things, I think piecemeal and play together. And I think that's where, and I see as professional accountants have the value and beyond a short-term financial reporting, but really being a strategic business leader, as well as the government in the public sectors, to working with the policy, the regulators, and to really make sure all the resources are appropriately allocated and prioritized in the right approach as well.
Thanks, Jenny. Thank you.
Jenny, thank you. We have a question from somebody I think you maybe know, Steve Heathcote. Steve, if you'd like to ask your question, please.
Thanks. Hi, Jenny. Nice to see you. Thanks for the presentation, and to congratulate you as well on what's been, I think, a fantastic year as president as ACCA during challenging times. And I think you have been very inspiring in helping people through COVID, and also championing issues like diversity and inclusion, which are so important. So I just had a question to you about diversity and inclusion. I mean, I think we still have a big problem that across the accountancy profession, it's only about, I think, 1 in 4 leaders are female. So there's a big challenge still there. And I think, you know, ACCA and others are helping address that, but it's still sometimes seen as a sort of female issue, as you like. And for men, we have to recognize our unconscious bias, and we have to start to tackle that. And that's really important, which you did touch on when you were speaking. So I'm just interested if you had any advice on how to encourage men to do that. And then culturally, if you see that the approach we have to take may be different. So for us, as an accountancy association globally, we're making some advances, I'd say, in the US. And there's more awareness being raised now in the US, and probably a bit more in the UK, but it's still quite hard in perhaps China and some of the other Asian countries we operate in to actually even get it onto the agenda. So I'm just interested in any advice you might be able to give me, really.
Hi, Steve. It's glad to see you, and it's a long time no see, but it's really glad to see some old faces. Thank you for the question and the comment. Very kind of you. And so onto diversity, interesting enough, and I think it's the unconscious bias, definitely. You know, I just share with you one recent example, interestingly enough. And this year marks the 70th anniversary of the Sino-Swiss government diplomatic relations. And so I was invited in as, you know, one of the corporate leaders, and to share some of the experience, or, you know, share some of the knowledge in China. And I was at the only I didn't pay much attention, but because I put in the Chinese name, I couldn't really tell the gender. Then it was funny enough, when I was literally on site that day before the seminar, it was a physical seminar, and I noticed all the invited panelists were female. And then the organizer, the chair, was saying they actually purposely did it. And they say, well, there was also one thing is about the sustainability of that night's seminar. And they thought they would invite in all the female, but not really focus on the female diversity inclusion topic, but they were just using the female on the stage to demonstrate that. But actually, to me, you know, it's contradictory, because when we particularly talk about diversity, you need to really bring the diversity at the table. So to me personally, if I would want to articulate the sustainability or the diversity, I would not put a full panel full of all women. It should have a male into that conversation, because we all contribute to the diversity. And if we only women are talking about the female diversity inclusion, it won't happen. Right. So I think it is a very, just share you, you know, the unconscious bias, or the way how people seeing and how you promote. But maybe back to how I see it and how we can encourage a bit better. And sometimes, given me, I'm Asian female, and I work and living most of my life. Of course, I worked for a multinational company. I worked in multiple countries in my career as well. But most of my years are in Asia. Because generally speaking, particularly maybe in mostly Chinese dominant countries, markets, the gender diversity is not and kind of like on top of people's mind, because you've seen female a lot more in the leadership positions. So generally, when you compare the Western world talking about diversity on the gender, not the race issue, and then Asians are not, it's not a hot topic, generally speaking, but still though, and when you really look at it, the very senior, the C-level suites, and then the board level, of course, if I look at the gender equality, and there's still, we have some room to improve, to continue to increase the portion, of the female presence. But I will put it this way, maybe, I would say, in the society or in the business, I would encourage, maybe one thing we can do is, first of all, the males, the awareness first thing, and then the second thing is really to put up some program. It could be mentor program. It could be actually for the male leaders to really pick one and two, or maybe two young and upcoming female colleagues to help them to grow faster. And my personal experience is, you know, at any stage of a person's career, the mentorship, or a coach, maybe not a coach, it's truly a mentor, and more so a sponsor, I will put it that way. A sponsor means in the organization, because outsider won't have that resource or access to the team. So I really see a sponsor or a mentor program, and really the male leaders to sponsor some young and upcoming female future leaders, and we really cascading, and it creates a platform, and it creates an opportunity to those females to actually be more exposed to senior leaders, and then also to actually be more experienced and listening and exposed to how senior leaders actually discuss business topic, how the senior leaders think on a specific problem or issues, and how they'll tackle that. And I think it could be something worthwhile to consider. And then again, back to my earlier comments and experience about, we as female need to feel confident enough and be brave enough to actually take on and to accept some of the challenges. You know, we sometimes maybe feel a little bit reluctant. So I think it's really about our female, us need to be more confident and take a step. And I would definitely encourage and ask all the male colleagues here and friends here, and being conscious and make a move, and to help to develop those female, young and upcoming female potential future leaders as well.
Jenny, thank you. We have a question from Anne Packard. Anne, if you'd like to ask your question, please.
Yes, thank you very much indeed for an utterly fascinating presentation. And I'm thrilled to hear all you've just said about mentoring, because I've been involved in 3 different mentoring schemes. My question is, what is your view on employee ownership? And do you think it will ever gain traction in China?
And thank you for that question. May I ask you clarify a little bit on the employee ownership?
There are different types in the United Kingdom, and there will be people in the audience much better versed in this than me. There is the traditional partnership model, such as the John Lewis Retail Group, which you may know about, which I believe was founded by Quaker families. And then more recently, either the concept of management buyout, and thus in turn employee ownership, or the ownership initiated at the outset as employee ownership.
Okay. All right.
If you,
I think it's about, sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
Yeah, so I think in particular talk about a mentorship, you know, I always think, and me being me probably, I think organization has the responsibility, of course, because it's also talking about their organization sustainability, is to continue to develop people and continue to build a strong and sustainable organization. So I think a mentorship, or I'll put it maybe into the people development side, on the talent development, are every organization's responsibility, because that's for their business sustainability. But on the other side, I always, and I myself as well, as always speak to our young people and the team I'm coaching, I'm leading, I always saying, development and growth is a personal responsibility. You have to have the desire first, right? Because if you're passively waiting, organization has limited resource. They will focus on the young upcoming, the most important roles, and the young and upcoming high potentials. They won't have resource to actually to develop or focus on everybody, literally. So I think it's everybody. If we own our career, we all own our own individual growth, and we will take steps. An organization, I will see it as more as a facilitator. They have their organizational responsibility for sure, but as an individual, I always encourage any young people is to be actually taking that ownership back into their own hands. And when they have a desire, and they see how their career could potentially develop and how fast they could in that organization, and they need to find out, and they sometimes, also I advise people to actually go find their own mentor if the company is not having a mentor program, because usually most of the time, every leader will say they're busy. But actually, if anybody, young people, reach out to those leaders, most of the time, they are willing actually to spend some time, depends on how their schedule work. But finding a workout solution is to spend time with young people to actually to share experience, or to give guidance, or to give as a sounding board. Because I also treat as an opportunity, as usually I also mentor young people here, is to me it's a two-way program in a way, because I'm also learning a lot stuff from the young people. One is on the business side. I won't be as a leader. I'm maybe at a more higher level. Some of the detail work on detail thing they've been working on, I wouldn't even be able to hear directly from my direct reports. So sometimes actually that helps me to understand a bit better, a bit far away in the organization. But it's also very important if you look at the digital, particularly, for example, and the young people are definitely our teacher, our mentor in that aspect. So to me, it's about both organizational responsibility, we need to develop sustainable business organization, but it also really the individual, as an individual, we want a career, we want to continue to grow. We should take control, take ownership of that.
That's the question.
Jenny, thank you. I think Anne was also thinking about the organisation and the governance of some companies. In the UK, we have employee-owned or employee-owned companies, and I think the question was also looking at the extent to which that might be possible in future in China. But I'm very conscious that we are on the hour now, and so the time has really approached for me to conclude the webinar. So on behalf of the chairman and members of the Asia Scotland Institute and all those participating today, I'd like to thank you for sharing your thoughts and experience on such a broad range of topics. Clearly, the economic future across the globe is uncertain, as you mentioned. But COVID indeed has accelerated some of these exciting changes. But it's encouraging to learn that the ACCA is addressing these, particularly those that you spoke so passionately about in terms of diversity, inclusion, and the technological changes. So Jenny, thank you very much for participating with us today, and we wish you all the best for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to have the opportunity to speak to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.